Hello everyone, welcome to the fifth video on this channel, and the topic of today's video is the future of schooling. So a lot of changes are happening and online education is coming, and people are becoming increasingly unsatisfied with the quality of education they get in a conventional school. A lot of people also are taking up homeschooling options because schools do not seem to cater the individual demands of students as well. Schools will are still mostly popularity 99% children or 90% children at least are going to a formal school who can afford schooling or have schools nearby them, but they still have a basic structure of education, but this may not remain so in next 5-10 years if they continue like this. At least the place I live, my people's experience with schools is not that great, and one of the reasons for this is that the consumer and serviceman relationship. So here, usually what happens, the serviceman provides you service and you pay directly to the serviceman, or the serviceman's payment is directly related to the quality of service you get. But it is not the case with schools. In schools, so many factors like distance with home and the child's individual performance comes into play, which becomes very hard to determine the exact quality of the school service. So the second reason is that the schooling curriculum is not that well acclimatized to the current climate. It doesn't change as fast as the world is changing around us right now. So schools may lose their vitality because in schools you're wasting a lot of your time studying things which you don't really need to study, and these days it's not, some places it's not even essential to bring a schooling certificate. Schooling is the backbone of our society because that's how things work. You go to school, then you go to a college. uh, so these are like what would be the future of schooling? Will schools disappear? I don't think so. I think for the next decade schools are here to stay. Can't say anything about the decade after the coming decade, like after 2030. You don't know what's going to happen because the world is changing very fast right now and it's become very hard to develop. But I think for at least next decade schools are here to stay largely. They will still remain the place where people could send their children to during their childhood and teenage. But what schools can do to remain vital? What change can be made in schooling to make them better, vital, and just a better option for people in general? So these are the three things which I think changes must be made. In some countries, these changes have already been made, but these are the three things which I think needs to be the basic system of schooling. Like we have a basic system of schooling right now. In most countries, you have some kind of 10+2 or 10+3 system of schooling, taking around somewhere around 12 to 13 years to complete schooling. Schooling starts from 5 to 6 years, going to all the way to 17, 18 years of age. It differs from country to country, but basic structure is same, and it's a very convenient structure. It's a very convenient structure. Very convenient structure. But many ways of schooling were experimented with in the 1800s, in the 1700s. But this is structure of schooling which was very popular. 10+2 is a very popular structure. The English structure of schooling, basically. But these are three things we think needs to change about schools. First thing is time. Second is what they teach, and third thing and how they teach. And third thing is definitely the duration. So what I mean by time? Time is necessarily the amount of time the children spend in the schools. So what happens here is that in at least in the country which I live, there are like 6 hours of schooling for 6 days. It's even higher in some other countries. So 6 hours schooling for 6 days is 36 hours a week, and that's like an average American worker. It's too little time for an average American worker. It's like 40 hours a week. So this is a very long schooling time, and schools don't really provide everything people need to build their careers. And second thing is that they also have homework. So this homework time may range from 1 hour to all the way to 3 to 4 hours, making it 9 hours of work time for 6 days, uh, making it 54 hours a week, and that's a long time for a student to spend and then not reap any benefits. So I think that the system where you have like 4 hours of schooling for 5 days is enough for me to allow children and students to have time to pursue other activities and take their other pursuits and goals more seriously, rather than totally depending on schools to feed them everything. And with this, the approach should be that schools are not enough or schools are not everything. Suppose a person wants to become a lawyer, and suppose this person wants to be a sports person. The very clean example is a sports person. Clearly, how many sports person learn their sport in school? Very few. They had to go away from the schooling system. Many did not complete their education. This is across all schools, across all types of schools, all types of countries, all types of sports. So you see these stories. Many sports person have not completed education or took some kind of open schooling or homeschooling options to complete their education. Uh, so that's why the tuition needs to be less. So that 4 hours you're taking 5 days a week, 20 hours. I believe it's enough time because a lot of time is wasted in the schools. There's not a very concentrated approach towards doing things quickly because a lot of time is wasting in assembly happens some places. Some places you have this lunch hour, free periods, and all this kind of stuff which waste a lot of time. So the duration needs to be, and this is something which could be followed by I think Finland and some Scandinavian countries, like 4 hours a week, 4 hours a day, 20 hours a week, and no homework over that, so that children have enough and plenty time for their development and growth, kind of things are expected these days. The second thing is which is what is taught and how it's taught. So right now, schools offer a very competitive, at least in most countries. I'm not saying some countries they don't, and the competition be totally removed out of school system. And that's what I'm saying that most countries should aim for. Somewhere, some place you still have a marking system with like 100 marks are there, or whatever marking scheme is there for the year, or you have marking system. And what marking system basically does is shift the responsibility from a lack of performance from the school to the student. And this clearly is a very bad idea because the quality of education keeps degrading in schools because the teachers are not being held accountable, the school is not being held accountable for lack of performance. It finally becomes, if your child did not perform well, it's your responsibility, your child did not work hard, or the school simply shrug their hands and say, well, responsibility, or start giving more and more homework to get the performance out of them instead of just seeing that is the quality that good. And there's a lot of profit equation involved, that paying teachers less and then charging a lot from parents, and so also so the teaching aim has to be shift from competitive based to providing everyone the education. Now, why this competitive based? Because schools are very much linked to professions. It's basically a primary responsibility of schools not to teach people but to judge of which standard students they are. Finally, it's all about going to those competitive examinations in countries like Hong Kong, India, or just creating those stress and understanding what capability these students have. And this doesn't really work. The second thing is that I don't think the schools should be about professional at all. These days, you have so much depth in each profession that it's very hard to give like one size fits all. Like you can just set one curriculum and say whether you become a lawyer or uh, whether you become a scientist, you will need the same education. It's not true because that is so much these days. Even in law, you are having like 5 or 6 branches: constitutional law and family lawyer, or these kind of things, because the law is so much and there's so many complications in that it's impossible for a single person to know in depth all of that. This was not the case some years ago. This is kind of each and every case is getting more and more deep. For example, in law, you're having more and more subclauses. So one size doesn't fit all anymore. You have to shift the focus from providing people professional learning to a learning for them to be in life. The kind of learning you want your citizens provide to your citizens so that they behave the best. Now, in many circumstances, even on being completely educated people who are completely they have studied the entirety of the mandatory or their school education, people behave like illiterates. People are forced to behave like illiterates. I don't have any knowledge of computers. I don't have knowledge of so many things. I'm trying to gain that knowledge. I don't know how to swim. I don't know how to. I kind of don't know how to drive. I have to go somewhere else to learn to drive. So that was a problem. This to be taught in schools, and this all should be like the kind of skills you want your citizens to have, kind of skills you want your workforce to have. Basic knowledge of law, basic knowledge. It's going to be debated. What are these essential skills? Basic knowledge of economics. People have to go to YouTube and look for videos teaching them how to do stockbroking, how to these are basic things. How what kind of savings they should have, how to deal with emotional stresses, how to go for disaster management. how to perform disaster management in case disaster strikes, which way they should go and what they should do. People don't know how to perform basic first aid. So the school's aim should be to provide people the training to get along with life. Like when you get an army, you get given a particular training. The same way schools should give you training for life, training to be a good citizen. So that basic knowledge of science is required, basic knowledge of computers is required. Not necessarily how a particular compound is formed, but more importantly, what are the industry regulations? What are your rights as a worker? What are your rights as a citizen? Rights as a citizen are taught many places, but rights of a worker are not taught. Then things like how you should oppose policies which you don't like, all the kind of things. These are not how you want your citizens to idly behave, or what kind of information you think they must have to deal with the situation. Now here comes a part where people have much objection with. Because this curriculum change can become very particularized. What is taught is often the way the population behaves. It's a very powerful tool to sway people. So that becomes a problem. Necessarily, this is a challenge. If you want to change the curriculum, you have to want to have a neutral viewpoint, which is so hard to have because curriculum is controlled by governments which have a particular political alignment. Now the third point is duration. Now schools last somewhere 13 to 12, 13 to 11 years, and that's a long time, and a lot of these schools eat into the time people can spend practicing their particular profession. That's what's going to count in the end of the day. That's why I always say the professional skills should not be taught at schools. That's not the place to learn professional skills. That's the place to learn normal life skills. That's a place where you should be able to give you the platform to understand any kind of professional learning. And I think, for example, take the example of medicine. Now, if the course completes your 30, you 10 plus 3 system, you complete 19, go for a 7 years or 6 years long medical course, you end up age 25 by the time you came out. And you have no professional experience at that point. You have just studied in a school, colleges, getting this like window view of the world, and you have not faced and done any real-time job. Whereas, whereas if you look at the other system which you can follow, start studying at the 10-year system, classes 1 to 10, divide your curriculum in the way which takes down all these useless things, make it as short as possible, so that it gets completed in 10 years time. By the time children are 16 or they turn 16, they can enter into colleges, so that by the time they turn 23, even the longest of course they must have completed, because that's when the time people have the most energy in them. When they're 23, 22, that's the youth, that's when the creativity curve is highest for people. That's when you want people to do this. That's the youth. That youth is getting wasted into school and colleges, which can be used in much more productive manner in a workforce or the later stage of college life. So these are the 3 points we should just change. And one of the basic selling points I'd like to mention here of schools is basically social interaction. Because personally, I had a very bad experience with schools. Personally, I did not enjoy being there just because of school phobia and some illness I had. Because that I did not enjoy being in these schools. But because I'm not being biased here, I do feel that schools being, for some people, people are just aiming to get into schools right now. They don't even have schools right now. Some places are there in the world which don't have schools. So that's, of course, schools have provided social interaction, a basic performable learning. It's a simple system, but we have even simpler systems coming out there. And the quality of teaching provided by an expert professor on an online course is better, more convenient. You can get that at home than you're going to get going to a school, and you're not wasting your time in transportation or wasting money in transportation. But basically culture, schools are culture now. Children grow up, send them to school, and nowhere else the world doesn't know a second way right now. And the way is all out of the way, so that's going to push schools through for next decade at least, and you may start seeing changes afterwards. That's for today. Thank you for watching.